Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the YouTube channel, and today we're back with another Witcher review, and it's the penultimate episode to season one, episode seven. Um, yeah, we have a lot to discuss about this episode because it confused the fuck out of me. But before we jump into that, please subscribe, hit that like button if you enjoyed the video, comment anything else you want to see on the channel, and of course, spoilers ahead. Enjoy. So yes, this episode is rather confusing. Um, oh, how do I say this? I think this was a very random episode for episode seven, because we got Geralt, however you say his name. And for some reason, they were like, yeah, let's make this episode a prequel for him to episode one. So with all the events, you see obviously Cyrilia with her family, the kingdom, how it all gets destroyed and obliterated in the first episode, and you thought all these characters were going to be main characters, and they were obviously. And it was really confusing because the episode opened up with Geralt with the guy who, in the brown clothing, who had obviously been killed and manipulated by this other Witcher character, who obviously was beaten by Cyrilia last episode, or she thwarted. But anyway, it's so confusing because they met up at the start of the episode, and then I thought he worked out that he was the villain, but then ultimately it was set before the first episode because he came across the woman who had committed suicide. I don't know any of their names because The Witcher is so confusing with so many different names. It's like Game of Thrones. It took me like 3, 4, 5 seasons before I knew everyone's name. And they weren't stupid names. In Game of Thrones, it was Rob, Arya, um, Bran. You know what names. But yeah, then I was like, oh wait, so that's the woman who was killed and jumped out of the building. Um, and then he was like, I'm here to pick. So I believe Cyrilia is the witch's daughter who was made from something. It was a very confusing episode for me. I'm like, because the witch is not in chronological order, it keeps jumping back and forth. It doesn't put dates on the screen, it doesn't put locations. It truly lets it down for him, lets it down for me because I'm trying to keep up with a show, and then you show me flashbacks, but it wasn't a flashback. It was like it was in the present day to give justification to where it was. But the weird thing was because you had Geralt, basically, which was split into three arcs: Cyrilia's story, Geralt's story, and Yennefer's story. Yennefer's and Cyrilia's or Ciri was set in present day. Geralt's is set in the past, but they made it feel like it was in the present until obviously you saw Cyrilia doing the game on the floor with her friends. And then you see the scene that was mirrored in episode one where she looks over and you're thinking who's she looking at, and it was the Witcher she was actually looking at, but the Witcher wasn't there because he'd moved by that point. He was captured whilst the whole place was being destroyed. They wanted the Witcher to get Cyrilia out of the kingdom originally, but ultimately he had escaped prior to that. And this is why Geralt and Cyrilia have never come into contact with each other and probably won't do till the next episode. But I just find it so messy. Like Yennefer came across the guy who was in that cave with her in the first few episodes when she was a hunchback, and she declared that she wanted to be with him. And then he obviously was like, "You chose power, and so you would look beautiful." Where I think he basically liked her before she looked beautiful and had the powers and all this, that, and the other. And so he just went off in his own way. And then she she rekindled with her teacher who taught her to be a mage and get the powers she now has. And she was trying to get into the mind of these three kids who obviously would have been turned into sort of similar eels like her ex workers people, ex mage friend people. I don't know. There's just it's a very this episode I've got to admit was poor because Witcher has so much potential, but they need to be putting dates on screen. They need to put locations because there's been month skips, there's been year skips, there's been day skips, it's like from episode 5 and 6. Episode 5, he left Yennefer after freeing her from the genie. Episode 6, he was reunited with Yennefer, but it was months later, and now we're in the past. I mean, there was no present content from Geralt this week, so I'm wondering when we next see him, how much of a time skip would there be? because how much time has been since Yennefer left Geralt just to go find this other guy who she originally slept with, but then she let Geralt, but because Geralt forced his feelings on her through the genie, she has now left him to go and find this guy. Why? And now she's going to war with the mages against other people. And Cerelia is about to. I don't know if she was about to get, killed or raped by her ex-friends who lived in the kingdom and survived somehow. It was about to take a dark turn, but then it left on the weirdest ending that I think an episode in The Witcher could do. She screamed. She broke off all the people let go of her. She dropped to her knees, and then it was like someone else was speaking while she was miming something. She was looking up at the sky. It was weird. I don't really understand what's going on. It's inconsistent with I don't know what to say really. It's just inconsistent, and whoever is behind, the editing of the show should really have made it clear for fans. It may be obvious for all the fans, but you've got to deal with people who have never played the games. Like, is it Nilfgaard, wherever they're talking about, all these places that are talking about being destroyed or attacking. The names aren't familiar, but if you put them on screen, you're like, oh, I know that. I know that. So many of the castles look the same. So many people have been to different locations, and you're like, is that person? Is that person? There's only certain. It's like there's these three. There's the guy, obviously, I said, who Yennefer's tried to hook up with in this episode. There's the leader of the mages who taught Yennefer. There's the guy who Geralt's friends with, who obviously is dead at this point. And that is it. They're the only characters who you recognize when they come on screen. It's like, I think the guy who turned into a porcupine in the other episode, I think his kingdom was destroyed the same episode. It's like the bard. Yeah, the bard. Like, will he appear again? Is he fully gone? It's just, I hope episode 8 is clearer, more, you can watch it without having to think about too much stuff. I'm not asking for much, but it was it's just messy. And I enjoy the show so much. I just want to know what time period setting is like. It was confused because, like I said, and last thing on this, but Geralt, it's been 12 years since he'd seen Cerilia's, mother. I don't know what she's classed as, stepmother, her mother's sister. I can't remember what she is because this show is too confusing. But it's like, oh, just too much. This episode was one of the poorer ones. That's what I'm going to say. I think if you're someone who can't keep up with a show, you're going to struggle with The Witcher because, as I said, there are no times. It jumps back and forth between time periods, jumps forward months and days, so it's hard to keep up. And it's not like they grayscale the past or it could make the present more colourful. It's all just one colour contrast, so you never know when it's in the past or present. So you got to be able to keep up with the show. But yeah, one of the poor episodes. But let me know what you think down below. Did you enjoy The Witch episode 7 and leaving towards episode 8? Stay tuned for that. Thanks for watching as always, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.